me everyone on Instagram and Facebook. My name is Jessica Davis. I'm a fitness and sports instructor here in CFB Gagetown, New Brunswick. And today we're going to be doing a mobility class. So all you'll need for the class is a mat or just a soft surface underneath you. If you do have a foam roller, it can be any size or kind of foam density. If you've got a foam roller, then you can grab that and have it close by as well. If you don't have a foam roller, you could also use a lacrosse ball to get kind of the same idea as what we'll be doing with the foam roller. All right, and otherwise I just have to read off our disclaimer. And our fitness coordinator will be posting this in the comments as well with the link so you can check them out before you start the class. So in response to COVID-19, PSP is offering telefitness to Canadian Armed Force members. By using social media platforms, the telefitness classes tailored to Canadian Armed Force members' personnel become accessible to all. Prior to participating in the session and to make an informed decision on whether you should seek advice from a qualified exercise professional or not, or a healthcare provider, please consult the Get Active questionnaire of the Canadian Society of Exercise Physiology and its reference document, simply by clicking on the links below. So there's the Get Active questionnaire and its reference document that our fitness coordinator will be posting in the comments. And by continuing with this telefitness class, you understand that there's a possibility of physical injury and you agree that you do so voluntarily at your own risk. You also assume all risk of injury and agree to release the Canadian Forces Morale and Welfare Services from any and all claims related to your participation in this telefitness class. All right. So, okay, so we will get started with the class. So like I said, it'll be mobility. If you've done any of my mobility classes in the past, I'm just going to kind of do a full body mobility this morning and kind of incorporate a little bit from all of the classes that I've done in previous videos. So we'll just do kind of a head to toe dynamic warm up, and then we'll get into each kind of specific part of the body or joint of the body and do a little bit of extra mobility there. So we'll start standing up. You don't need any shoes for this. You can be in sock feet or bare feet. And we'll start up at the head with our neck. So let's bring our left ear to our left shoulder and then roll your chin to chest around in front and end up so right ear is down to the right shoulder, and go back the same way you came, and just very slowly continue that rocking back and forth. Good. Go one more there and back. Good. Staying with the neck, if you can bring it back up to center, we're going to look over to our left shoulder and then look, just slightly bring your chin in towards your chest. You'll feel a bit of a stretch come up through that back side of your neck. We're going to come back up to center, so we're not staying in the stretch, we're just flowing through it. Over to the right, tuck your chin down and bring it back up. Back to center. Over to the left, tuck the chin down and up, back to center. It's not a very big movement, but you'll definitely feel a stretch through the opposite side of your neck. Let's go for one more on each side. Over to the right, look down, back up. Over to the left, look down, back up. Awesome. Good stuff. So let's plant our feet a little bit more than hip width apart. And we're just going to start some very gentle torso twists. So with these torso twists, pick up the opposite foot to the direction you're turning. So I'm going left, so my right heel is going to lift off the ground, and it's going to move with my body so that my torso twist isn't twisting my spine too immediately. Get a little bit of movement warmed up in your spine while we're standing. Good. Now we're going to move into the hips. So we're going to do two movements, a squat and then a hinge. So you're going to squat and come back up, and then you're going to hinge forward from the hip. You can bend your knees a little bit, reach toward your toes, and then lift back up using your glutes and your hamstrings in the back of your legs. So squat, stand, hinge, stand. Squat, stand, hinge, stand. Making sure that when you're standing up for both movements, that your glutes are engaging to lift you back up. We'll do a couple more. One more of each. Good. Come back to standing. We'll bring some lateral movement into it now, so get a little bit wider stance. And we're going to lateral lunge to each side. So lateral lunge to the right, bring yourself back to center. Over to the left, back to center. Keep your chest up nice and tall while you're doing this. So if you looked at me from the side, I'm keeping my chest up tall as I lunge and just sit my hips back to do this movement. We'll do a couple more to each side. One more, and on the right. Good. Heel toe your feet back up together. And one more movement for the hips and the legs to get them warmed up. So bring your feet fairly close together so that your big toes touch, and you have a bit of space between your heels. We're going to sit our hips back nice and far and bring our hands forward as a counterbalance and keeping our chest up nice and tall. So it's like we're going to sit down in a chair and reach our hands forward to balance us into that. So we're going to do this kind of chair squat movement for 10. So here we go, hands forward, hips back. When you look down, your knees should still be behind your toes. You should be able to see your toes. Back up. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Awesome. Okay, last little movement. Let's get into the ankles. So just give your ankles a little roll out. You can hold the wall if you need to. Switch directions on the same foot. Awesome. Other foot. And switch directions. Good stuff. All right, nice and warmed up. Okay, so we're going to start seated. And just like our dynamic warm-up, we're going to just do some mobility movements from head to toe. So you can sit however is comfortable for you. You can have your feet out in front of you straight or knees bent with feet on the floor. You can be cross-legged. You can be up, sitting back on your feet, like a hero pose if you're familiar with yoga, whatever you would like to do. So we're going to do a little bit of mobility with our neck. So similar movements actually to what we did in the warm-up. We're just going to slow them down and kind of add a bit of a stretch timing into it. So we're going to look over to our left shoulder. We're going to drop our chin in towards our chest, and you'll start to feel that stretch come up the right side of your neck. And then we'll come back up and over to the right side. Now look over your right shoulder, drop your chin to your chest, and feel that stretch come up the right side. Back up. Okay, just as we're going, we're going to hold each side for an extra second each time. Over to the right, drop the chin. Back up. To the left, drop the chin. Back up. A little bit longer now, drop the chin to the right. Back up. Over to the left, drop the chin. Back up. One more time to the right, drop the chin. And back up to center. Good. Okay, let's grab our foam roller now and come down to lying. So just so that you can see kind of a top view of what I'll be like lying down, we're going to bring the foam roller behind the base of our head and neck for lying down, like we're lying on a pillow. And then you'll feel the foam roller just kind of giving a little bit of a massage just here at the base of your skull and the top of your neck. And try not to make too many major movements or don't rock your head around too much. Just kind of let your head, the weight of your head sit on the foam roller, and you'll likely feel a little bit of a pressure release at the top of your neck there. So lie back and use that foam roller as kind of a pillow tucked under your neck and head. And then just sit in stillness for a minute until you kind of feel where the foam roller is hitting for you, whether you feel any pressure where it is. And then when you're ready, the only movement I want you to do is just bringing your head side to side. So just turn your head to the right slightly, maybe like a 45-degree angle, and see what kind of pressure or tension you feel. Then bring it back to center. And do the same thing over to the left. So go to 45-degree angle. And bring it back to center. And it may be on the movement that you actually find the pressure rather than stopping at a certain point. And just kind of keep moving back and forth. You can either stop in stillness if you feel a little pressure point, or you can just continue to very slowly, in a controlled way, move your head from side to side. You can start to increase your angle a little bit more, so you can roll your head over past 45 degrees if it feels okay, and then you are getting kind of up into the back of your ear when you're turning your head on the foam roller like that. Do maybe one more little roll to each side. Good, and then come on back up to center. Now we're going to remove the foam roller from our neck, and just for a second, just let your head rest on the mat, and just lie in stillness for a second. Let that kind of neck work that we just did sink in a little bit. Maybe just from lying flat, move your head from side to side. Massage the back of your head a little bit higher up now where it's hitting the floor. Good, and then come on back to center. And we're going to do some stuff for our shoulders now. So moving down the body. I'm just going to move down a bit so Instagram can see me better. Okay, so for shoulders, we're going to start with our hands down flat on the ground, so our palms are kind of just beside our hips. Our palms are facing down. As we lie here like this, we're going to make sure our core is engaged a little bit. So if you're lying and you have space underneath your low back, so I can put my hand under my low back right now, because my low back has that natural arch in it. I want you to think of pulling your belly button towards your spine to turn on your core a little bit, just enough so that your low back is pressing into the mat now below you. So I can't fit my hands underneath because my core is engaged. Okay, we just want to make sure we're supported when we're going to be moving our limbs around. So supported and engaged core. Hands are down beside the hips. So from here, the next time you inhale, I want you to rise your hands up off the mat until they are directly above your shoulders. And then as you exhale, you're going to drop your hands back behind your head, just as far as they'll go. If they'll come and touch the floor, that's great. You can let them rest on the floor. If they don't, then maybe grab a pillow or a folded up blanket or something so that when your hands make it as far as they can go, as far as your shoulder range of motion will allow, then they can just rest on that blanket or pillow or whatever you have. Okay, and then from there, we're going to, next time we inhale, bring our hands back over our shoulders, and then exhale, drop them back down beside our hips. So nice and slow and controlled for this. Make sure your core is turned on. Inhale, hands come up over the shoulders nice and slowly. Exhale, drop them down behind your head. Inhale to rise nice and slow. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, hands rise. Exhale, hands lower. Inhale to rise. Exhale to lower. And just do a couple more of these on your own kind of breathing rhythm of inhale and exhale. And then we'll all meet back with our hands beside our hips. We're going to add one little piece to this. So you may notice now that your core disengaged during that, so you have room to put your hands under your back again. We're going to lift our feet up so the soles of the feet are pressing up towards the ceiling. Keep some bend in your knee, so it's not supposed to be uncomfortable. Just keep a little bit of bend in your knee, but press the heels of your feet up into the ceiling so you have active feet. We're going to do the exact same thing, just with our core engaged a little bit more and our feet pressing up. So a little bit more active through our lower body. So hands start beside the hips. Feet and legs aren't going to move, they're just staying extended up into the air. So inhale, hands rise up to the shoulders. Exhale, they fall down behind the head. Inhale, rise. Exhale, lower. Inhale to rise. Just continue on your own pattern. One more with your feet in the air. And we'll all meet with our hands back beside our hips. And you can bring the soles of your feet back to the mat now. And if you want, you can give a little rock back side to side with your knees. So kind of a windshield wiper motion with your knees back and forth. Good, and then bring them to center. One more piece for the shoulders. So this time we're going to inhale our arms up. Make sure your core is engaged again. Exhale them down behind your head. This time we're going to keep our hands on the floor and we're going to make like a snow angel motion and kind of give a little bit of bend into your elbows and bring them down towards your hips. And then extend until your hands come back beside your hips. So if I was lying down and you saw me from top view, my hands are above my head, I'm going to create bend in my elbows and sweep them down like I'm making a snow angel. Keep the elbows bent and bring them in towards the hips. At this point, you're going to feel stretch probably through the front of your shoulder and maybe the top of your chest. And then bring the elbows right into your hips and then let the hands follow down beside. So from the top, start to bend the elbow as you come down until you hit that 90 degrees in your elbow. Then keep the 90 degrees and let your elbow come in towards your hips, and then extend the hands back down to the hips from there. So going with that, let's lie back down. So same thing for the getting the hands above the head. So inhale, your hands rise. Exhale, hands fall behind your head. When your hands reach the floor, you start to inhale again and let your elbows start to bend. Feel that nice stretch happening in the front of your shoulder and the top of your chest. Bring the elbows right in towards the hips and then extend the hands back down to the hips. So your palms are facing up now. Flip them back, so palms face down. Inhale, hands rise. Exhale, hands fall behind you. And then again, start to bend the elbows, creating that sweeping motion. Feel that nice stretch happening in the front. Make sure your core is still engaged. Just a little bit. Palms facing up, flip them back over beside the hips. And rise our hands again. Overhead. Sweep the arms, making that snow angel with bent elbows. Back down, flip the palms to face down. Let's go one more time. Rise the hands. And create that snow angel with bent elbows. Bring the elbows in towards the hips, and then let the hands follow after. Awesome. All right, from line here, maybe just give your shoulders a little roll or wiggle. You could hug your knees in towards your chest. Maybe rock side to side a little bit. And when you're ready, you can roll onto one side, use your top arm to push you back up into a seated position. I'm just going to grab a sip of water before we move on. All right, we're going to come into some spinal movement now, coming onto our hands and knees in a tabletop position. So here in tabletop, my knees are directly under my hips, my hands are directly under my shoulders. I'm going to keep a little bit of a bend in my elbows, so I don't want to lock out that elbow joint. Hands are nice and active, fingertips press in, and then the where your fingers connect to your palms press in, and the base of your palm as well. So here in tabletop, we're going to start a little spinal flow with cat and cow. So as we inhale, you're going to lift the head, lift your gaze up, as well as lift your tailbone up and drop your belly. So you're creating a really exaggerated arch through your spine. And then as you exhale, the opposite. So drop your chin to your chest, drop your tailbone, and round up through your shoulders and your spine. Drop back down to cow. Inhale, head rises. Tailbone rises, belly drops. Exhale, chin to chest, round the shoulder blades up and drop your tailbone. Inhale again to cow. Head rises, gaze lifts, and exhale to cat. Let's do one more of each. Look back up into cow, and switch to cat. Good. Now we're going to make this into a little bit of lateral movement for our spine. So if you're looking at me from head on, we're going to kind of trace a jump rope path, or like think of a barrel or a circle or something. We're going to kind of barrel roll our spine. So our hands and our knees aren't moving, but I'm going to pretend with like my spine at the top of my head, I'm going to trace a circle and go around. So let's go to the right first. So I'm going to put my weight into my right hand, and then I'm going to drop through my elbows, bring my chest towards the ground, and as I'm doing that, I'm moving over to the left side. When I get to the left, now I'm going to round up through my back and press my shoulders into the mat as I come back to center, and then back over to the right. So drop the chest to come to the left, and then round through the shoulders to come back over to the right. So you can see I'm tracing this circle or this barrel motion and creating like a jump rope with my spine. Once you get the movement down for that, you can make it nice and slow and controlled, or you can make it not fast, but a little bit more moderate of a motion. And then let's switch directions. So now I'm going to round my back to come over to the left, drop my chest to come back to the right, and then round my back again to come to the left. So just back and forth, around in a circle, creating that jump rope with your spine. Again, make it nice and controlled and slow at first, feeling each vertebrae and movement through your shoulder joint. And then as you get the movement pattern down, you can move just a little bit smoother. Good. And then we'll just come back to center. Let's sit back onto our feet. Since we've been on our wrists for a while, let's give them a little roll out. Switch directions of your wrist, whatever you're rolling. And what are we up for time? Awesome. I know I started a little late, so I'll go a few minutes past. Okay. Shake out your wrists. And let's move into the hips now. So we'll start with a little bit of movement in our hips, and then we'll go into some hip flexor and glute stretching. All right, if you've done any of my hip mobility classes before, then you're probably familiar with the 90-90 knee bend. So right now I'm sitting, my torso is kind of facing to the left, but my knees are both at 90 degrees. So my left knee is pointing out to the left, and then my left shin is coming parallel to the top of my mat, so that the sole of my foot is along this long edge of the mat. My right knee is pointing straight out towards the laptop and the phone where you are, and then my right shin runs along the long side of my mat, and then my right foot is matching up with the end of my mat. So both of my knees are at that 90-degree bend. So try and create that with your legs. Your knees may not allow you to do 90 degrees. You may have to make your angle a little bit smaller and have your feet in closer to you. Just whatever your hips and knees will allow you to do. So from here, we're going to keep our feet planted where they are, and then our knees and our hips are going to move. So feet stay there. Our knees are going to lift, and we're rotating to the right if you're in the same position as I am right now. And then we're going to drop our knees down to the right. So now I'm in the exact same position that I was a second ago, just flipped. So let's do it again. Feet stay where they are. Knees rise up. As the knees rise, you're kind of transferring weight into the other sit bone, and then drop your knees down towards the left. You can use your hands to support you from behind and just get used to flipping your knees in this motion with some support from your hands. So just the knees rise and then flip over, back and forth. If you want the extra challenge, a little bit of balance, a little bit more mobility, then you can take your hands off the mat and flip your knees to each side. You'll probably find that you start to move forward a little bit as your hips are moving, your sit bones are kind of walking you forward. Okay, let's go for 2 more on each side. Over to the right, over to the left, to the right again, and to the left one last time. Good. All right, let's come back to seated. And actually, we're going to come around to tabletop. and do a hip flexor stretch now. So we're going to have the same 90-90 knee bend that we just had when we were sitting down. So I've got right foot in front with my knee bent up in front of me. My left knee is here on the ground. You can create a little bit of extra padding by rolling your mat over for an extra layer, or you can put a pillow or something under that back knee. So from here, we're going to keep both of our knees and hips at 90 degrees. So just kind of check in that when you look down, your hip and knee are still in line, that you're not leaning forward and your hip is out in space. So I want you to tuck it back in so that hip is above the knee. So from here, we're going to create a stretch in this front left hip flexor. So instead of leaning forward to create that stretch, we're going to stay up nice and tall, and we're just going to tip our pelvis forward. So if you bring one hand to your belly, one hand to your low back, and think of press in with your fingertips on your low back, and you're tipping your pelvis forward. So if I exaggerate it, you probably have a bit of a curve in your spine, and then you're going to tuck your bum under and create that pelvic tilt. Now that your pelvis is tilting forward from the base, you're going to feel that stretch come up through your left hip flexor and maybe into your quad as well. So we're just going to hold here for a few breaths. If you have fairly mobile hip flexors and you're not feeling this stretch, so if you're stretching on your left side, you can bring your left hand up in the air. You may feel a bit more of a stretch when you're incorporating the rest of your side body in through that way. Take 3 more nice deep breaths. Good. If you have that arm up, you can drop it back down. Bring your hands down to the inside of your right foot. Let the right foot come back to that tabletop position. Uncurl your mat if you had it curled under. And then we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So left foot comes forward, and then you can tuck the corner or the edge of your mat on the right side under if you want more cushioning. So same thing here. Make sure both knees and hips are at 90 degrees. And we're not going to creep forward. Make sure that when you look at your hip, you can still see your knee down in line. And again, bring one hand to the base of your belly, one to the base of your back, and push in on your fingertips on your low back to help you kind of get that motion of tucking your hips under. You can also think of bringing your belly button up towards your chest, so you're getting that tucking motion. And then you should feel that stretch down through your right hip flexor. If you don't feel it too big, you want a little bit more stretch, you can lift your right hand up in the air. And just breathe here, feeling the stretch. Take 3 more breaths. Good. Bring both hands back down to the mat on the inside of your left foot. Let your left foot come back to support on your left knee and tabletop, and uncurl that back edge of your mat. All right, one more stretch to loosen up the hips. We're going to come around on our backs into a figure 4 stretch. We'll actually start seated. So for a figure 4 stretch, we're going to bring our left foot and cross our left ankle over our right knee. So you can extend that bottom right leg out as far as you need to, but start to walk the sole of your right foot in closer to your hip, and by doing that, you're going to feel a stretch up this left side and in the left glute. So you can either remain here seated, or if doing it seated is uncomfortable, or you just want to lie down, then you can come down on your back and continue figure 4 stretch here. You're going to lace your left hand in between your thighs and your right hand around the right side, and then just hug in that right thigh and have your left elbow on your left knee and trying to push it out that way. So 2 ways you can do this figure 4 stretch. It's up to you which one you choose. And again, just breathing here nice and deep. Two more breaths. Good, and we'll unravel from there. Just bring the soles of your feet onto the mat, whether you are seated or lying down. And we'll do the same on the opposite side. So cross the right ankle over the left knee this time. And from here, you can remain seated, just moving your hips closer. You should feel the stretch up the right side of your leg and in your right glute. You can stay seated, or you can come to lie down. If you're lying down, bring your right hand between your thighs and your left hand around the left side to hug in the left thigh. Use your right elbow to push out on that right knee. And again, just breathe. Two more breaths. Good, you can unravel yourself from that. And just set both feet on the mat again. If you want to take a moment to just do a couple windshield wipers back and forth with your knees, then you can, or you can just stay in stillness for a couple breaths. And to finish off, let's do a bit of a stretch through our feet. Check our time. Good, that's perfect. Okay, so a bit of a stretch to the bottoms of our feet. So from kind of our tabletop, we're going to tuck our toes under behind us, and we're going to sit back on our feet with our toes tucked under. So while you're sitting here, make sure your baby toes are in line with the rest of your feet, so you might just kind of have to tuck them under. Sometimes they don't quite make it in the toe stretch. So bring your baby toes in line with the rest of your feet, and then you're sitting back on your heels. You should start to feel a stretch come up through the bottom of your foot. And we're just going to stay here stretching out the bottoms of our feet and our toes while we do some stuff for our wrists and forearms as well. So you're going to place your left palm facing up out in front of you. Take your right fingertips and place them on your left fingertips. So just like that. And then you're going to open up the inside of your left forearm and fold your fingers back, using your right hand to fold your left fingers back to create that stretch up the inside of your left arm. And just breathe again, feeling that nice stretch. This stretch at the wrist is one people don't do very often, but when we're all on computers right now, it's a really good stretch to do a couple times a day. Good. Roll that left wrist out a little bit. Let's do it for the right side. So right palm is up. Take your left fingers, place them along your right fingers, and then open up the inside of that right arm. Your toes might be feeling extra tingly right now if they're not used to this foot stretch. That's okay, just breathe through it. Couple more breaths here, stretching the right arm. And let that go. Roll out your right wrist a little if you need to. All right. And if you're ready to come out of this foot stretch, we're going to bring our hands back down in front of us into a tabletop motion. Slowly untuck your toes, and then slowly just give the tops of your feet a little bit of a pat out on your mat. Good. Roll your ankles, roll your toes a little bit if you need to. And then just come to sit in whatever position is comfortable for you. And to finish off, let's all just take 3 nice deep breaths together. So wherever you are, inhale nice and big. You can rise your arms if you want, or you can leave them down at your side. It doesn't matter. Inhale nice and big, as much air as you can get in, and then exhale nice and big. Inhale again. Exhale. One more time. Inhale. And exhale to let it all go. Awesome. Thank you so much, guys, for joining my Friday mobility class. Hope you enjoyed it. Got a little bit of a stretch for your body heading into the weekend. And otherwise, I will see you guys again next week. Everyone have a beautiful weekend wherever you are in Canada. Enjoy it. And I will see you later. Bye.